My dear brothers and sisters, many people come to me and say, I feel lost. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know why things are falling apart. And I want you to know something very important today. Feeling lost is not always a sign of misguidance. Sometimes it is a sign that Allah is guiding you quietly, gently, and lovingly. See, if Allah had truly abandoned you, you wouldn't care at all. Your heart wouldn't ache. Your eyes wouldn't turn to the sky in the middle of the night. The very pain you feel is proof that Allah still wants you. Sometimes Allah removes the comfort so that you return to the creator of comfort. When life becomes uncomfortable, when plans collapse, when things don't make sense, we often think it's punishment. But what if it's protection? What if Allah is closing a door because behind it was harm you couldn't see? Allah says He knows and you do not know. There are moments when Allah doesn't shout His guidance. He whispers it. He places a restlessness in your heart, not to destroy you, but to wake you up. Suddenly, the things that once satisfied you no longer do. The sins don't feel sweet anymore. The dunya feels empty. That is not loss. That is awakening. Sometimes Allah delays what you want because He is preparing you for what you need. Think about it. If everything worked out the way you planned, would you ever fall into sujood with tears? Would you ever truly call upon Him with sincerity? Allah loves when His servant returns to Him, even if that return comes through hardship. My dear brothers and sisters, not every closed door is rejection. Not every delay is denial. Not every silence is absence. Allah may be rearranging your life so beautifully, but from where you stand, it looks like chaos. Trust Him. If you're feeling lost, ask yourself, are you thinking more about Allah than before? Are you questioning your purpose? Are you being pushed away from things that once distracted you from Him? If yes, then rejoice. Allah is guiding you silently. Hold on. Keep making dua, even when it feels heavy. Keep praying, even when motivation is low. Because guidance does not always come as light. Sometimes it comes as pressure that shapes you into who you are meant to be. And remember, Allah never takes something away unless He plans to replace it with something better, either in this life or the next. May Allah grant us clarity, patience, and unwavering trust in His plan. Ameen. If you'd like, I can also shorten this for a YouTube, TikTok script bar A, D-Quran verses and hadith references A, just the tone, more emotional, more calm, BRJ, St tell me, bar F. Feeling lost does not mean Allah has abandoned you. In fact, many times it means the exact opposite. Bar. When a person says, I feel lost, what they are really saying is, something inside me is unsettled. And that unsettled heart is not a dead heart. A dead heart feels nothing. It drifts without question, without concern, without guilt, without longing. But your heart is asking questions. It is searching. It is aching for meaning. That is already a sign of Allah's mercy. If Allah had truly left you, you would not be thinking about Him at all. You would not be worried about your direction, your purpose, or your akhirah. You would be comfortably distracted, chasing the dunya without reflection. The pain you feel, the confusion you experience, the tears that come when you are alone, these are not signs of abandonment. They are signs that Allah is still connected to you, still calling you, still pulling you closer in a way that only He understands. Sometimes Allah removes clarity so that you learn reliance. When everything is clear, we depend on our plans. When everything is stable, we depend on our strength. But when you feel lost, when you don't know your next step, suddenly you look up. Suddenly your hands rise in dua, not out of habit, but out of need. And Allah loves that moment, not because He wants you to suffer, but because He wants you to remember where true stability comes from. Understand this, Allah's abandonment would be letting you continue on a harmful path without interruption. But when Allah loves a servant, He stops them, He slows them down, He makes them uncomfortable with what once felt normal. That discomfort is not rejection, it is divine intervention. It is Allah saying, this is not where you belong. Many of the prophets felt lost at some point. Not lost in faith, but lost in circumstance. Confused by what was unfolding, uncertain of what was next. Yet those moments were not signs that Allah had left them. They were moments of preparation. Growth often happens in the dark, just like seeds buried beneath the soil. If the seed could speak, it would say, I am lost. But in reality, it is exactly where it needs to be. So when you feel lost, do not rush to label yourself as distant from Allah. Instead, ask yourself, am I being reshaped? Am I being redirected? Am I being stripped of false reliance so that I may rely on Allah alone? Because Allah does not guide every servant with ease. Some He guides with comfort, and others He guides with questions, pauses, and detours. And remember this deeply, Allah is closer to you in moments of confusion than you realize. He sees you even when you cannot see the road ahead. Feeling lost is not the end of guidance. For many people, it is where guidance truly begins. Discomfort and confusion are often misunderstood. We assume that when life feels heavy, unclear, or unsettling, something must be wrong. But in reality, discomfort can be one of the clearest signs that Allah is redirecting you. Comfort has a way of making us settle, even when we are in the wrong place. Confusion, on the other hand, shakes us awake. It forces us to pause, reflect, and question paths we may have been walking on autopilot. Allah does not always guide by making the road smooth. Sometimes He guides by making the wrong road uncomfortable to walk on. When your heart no longer feels at ease with certain choices, certain habits, or even certain environments, that inner tension is not random. It is a signal. It is Allah gently removing the sweetness from what was never meant to satisfy you in the first place. Think about how many times you stayed in a situation simply because it was familiar, not because it was good for you. Discomfort is often the push that familiarity never gives. Allah, in His wisdom, knows that if He leaves you too comfortable, you may never move. So He introduces unease, not to harm you, but to help you grow. What feels like confusion is sometimes clarity being rebuilt from the ground up. Confusion also humbles us. When you don't understand what is happening, you realize how limited your control truly is. That realization is powerful. It pulls arrogance out of the heart and replaces it with dependence on Allah. You begin to say, Ya Allah, I don't know. And that admission alone opens doors of guidance. Allah loves when His servant turns to Him honestly, without pretending to have it all figured out. Many people fear confusion because they think it means they are failing. But confusion often means you are transitioning. You are between what was and what will be. That space in between is uncomfortable, uncertain, and emotionally draining, but it is also where a transformation happens. Allah does not always move you instantly from one stage to another. Sometimes He allows you to sit in the question so that your heart matures before the answer arrives. Even the discomfort of losing interest in things you once loved can be a form of guidance. When sins stop feeling enjoyable, when distractions stop fulfilling you, when achievements feel empty, it is not depression of the soul. It is awakening of the soul. Allah is removing attachments so that your heart has room for something greater. Understand this. Punishment hardens the heart, but guidance softens it. If your discomfort is making you more reflective, more humble, more aware of Allah, then it is not a sign of distance. It is a sign of closeness. Allah is teaching you to listen to your heart again, to slow down, to realign. So do not rush to escape confusion. Sit with it long enough to ask what Allah is trying to teach you. Because sometimes the very discomfort you are trying to run from is the doorway to the direction you've been praying for. One of the hardest realities for the heart to accept is that not every closed door is a loss. When something you desperately wanted doesn't work out, the first thought that comes to mind is pain, disappointment, even self-blame. You begin to question your worth, your dua, and sometimes even Allah's care for you. But doors closing is not always a sign of punishment. Many times it is a sign of protection wrapped in disappointment. All us sees what you cannot see. You see the surface, the opportunity, the relationship, the plan, the future you imagined. Allah sees the outcome, the hidden harm, the long-term consequences that would have broken your heart or damaged your faith. When Allah blocks something from reaching you, it is not because you were unworthy of it, it is because it was unworthy of you. Think about how many things you once cried over that you now thank Allah for removing. At the time, it felt like everything was falling apart. Later, you realized that if it had worked out, it would have cost you far more than you were willing to pay your peace, your values, or your closeness to Allah. Allah's protection often arrives in a form we dislike, because protection does not always feel gentle. Sometimes Allah closes a door because He knows you would have stayed there too long, you would have compromised too much, you would have tolerated what you were never meant to accept. So Allah steps in and ends it for you, not to hurt you but to save you. The pain you feel afterward is real, but it is temporary. The harm you were protected from could have been permanent. It is also important to understand that Allah does not owe us an explanation. He asks us for trust. That trust is tested most when things don't make sense. When the door closes despite your effort, your sincerity, your dua, that is when faith moves from words to conviction. You may not see the wisdom now, but wisdom does not disappear. Just because it is hidden, closed doors also make room for better ones. But better does not always mean easier. Sometimes it means something that grows you, strengthens you, and draws you closer to Allah. If Allah gave you everything you wanted, you might never look up. You might never realize that your security was never meant to be in outcomes, but in the one who controls them. When a door closes, resist the urge to force it open. What Allah closes, no one can open. And what Allah opens, no one can close. Your job is not to chase every opportunity, but to walk with trust, patience, and humility. So when you face rejection, endings, or losses that you cannot understand, remind yourself, Allah is Al-Hakim, the most wise. He is not removing goodness from your life. He is removing what would have taken you away from Him. And there is no greater protection than that. A restless heart is not an enemy, it is often a messenger. Many people assume that peace comes only when life is settled, when everything is predictable and controlled. But sometimes Allah places restlessness in the heart precisely because it has settled for too little. That unease you feel, that quiet dissatisfaction that follows you even in moments of success, is not emptiness. It is a call. When the heart is far from Allah, it becomes numb. It adapts to distraction and learns to survive without meaning. But when Allah wants goodness for a servant, He awakens the heart. He removes its comfort in heedless need. Suddenly, the things that once entertained you feel hollow. The noise of the world becomes tiring. You begin to crave something you cannot fully name. That craving is not confusion. It is remembrance knocking on the door of your soul. Restlessness pushes you to search. And searching is an act of sincerity. A heart that is content with distance never searches, but a heart that feels unsettled is one that still knows there is more. Allah creates that awareness as a mercy. It is His way of reminding you that you were created for something greater than routines, pleasures, and temporary attachments. Many people try to silence this restlessness with more distraction, more work, more entertainment, more noise. But the heart was not created to be satisfied by excess. It was created to be satisfied by connection with Allah. The more you try to fill that space with anything else, the louder the restlessness becomes. Not because you are broken, but because your heart is being honest with you. Sometimes the restlessness appears during moments of sin. What once felt exciting now feels heavy. What once felt normal now feels wrong. That discomfort is guidance. It is Allah softening your heart so that you do not remain stuck in what harms you. If Allah wanted to leave you where you are, He would let the sin feel sweet. But when He wants you back, He removes the sweetness and leaves behind the weight. This inner unease also appears when your life lacks purpose. You may be achieving goals, earning money, building a name, yet feeling strangely empty. That emptiness is not ingratitude. It is your soul reminding you that worldly success without spiritual grounding will always feel incomplete. Allah is gently redirecting your focus, asking you to measure your life not only by what you gain, but by who you become. Do not be afraid of a restless heart. Listen to it, sit with it. Ask Allah why it is unsettled. Often it is unsettled because it is being invited home. Allah does not always call His servants with ease and comfort. Sometimes He calls them with longing, with tears, with a sense that something is missing. And when you respond to that call, even with a small step, the heart begins to find peace. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because the heart remembers where it belongs. Waiting is one of the most difficult tests of faith. When you make dua and the answer does not come, when you do everything right yet nothing seems to move, it is easy to assume that Allah is saying no, or worse, that He is silent because He is displeased with you. But delays are not always rejection. Very often they are preparation. Allah's timing is not random. He sees the full picture, who you are now, who you need to become, and what you are asking for. Sometimes what you want is good, but you are not yet ready for it. And sometimes you are ready, but the circumstances around you are not. In His mercy, Allah delays until all the pieces align in a way that protects your heart and your faith. If Allah gave you everything immediately, you might mishandle it. You might rely on the blessing instead of the one who blessed you. Delay builds patience, humility, and reliance. It stretches your faith from belief in ease to trust in uncertainty. That is not a small transformation. That is the kind of growth that stays with you long after the dua is answered. Silence from Allah is not absence. Allah is never absent. He hears every whisper of your heart, even the du'as you are too tired to put into words. His silence is often an invitation for deeper sincerity. It strips away expectation and replaces it with submission. You begin to say, Ya Allah, I trust you, even if I don't understand you. That level of trust cannot be taught in moments of instant answers. Think about how many times you were grateful, something took longer than you expected. Had it come earlier, it would have broken you, distracted you, or pulled you away from Allah. Delay can be a shield. While you wait, Allah may be removing obstacles, protecting you from unseen harm, or preparing something far better than what you imagined. You see waiting as wasted time, but Allah may be using that time to rewrite your destiny. Preparation often happens quietly. Allah works within you before He works around you. He strengthens your character, refines your intentions, and purifies your heart. By the time the blessing arrives, you are not the same person who first asked for it. You are more grounded, more grateful, more aware of where true reliance lies. There is also reward in waiting itself. Every moment of patience, every time you restrain despair, every time you choose trust over complaint, Allah counts it. Nothing is lost. Even if the exact thing you asked for never comes, the growth you gained during the wait remains. And sometimes that growth is the real gift. So do not interpret delay as being forgotten. Allah does not forget His servants. He is teaching you how to walk with Him even when the road is unclear. What is meant for you will reach you, not a moment too early, not a moment too late. Until then, let waiting shape you, not break you. So my dear brothers and sisters, if you are feeling lost, uncertain, delayed, or unsettled, do not rush to despair. These moments are not proof that Allah has turned away from you. Very often they are proof that He is turning you towards Him. Guidance does not always arrive with clarity and ease. Sometimes it arrives wrapped in confusion, closed doors, restlessness, and waiting. Allah is the most gentle. He guides in ways that protect your heart, even when those ways feel painful at first. What you see as loss may be rescue. What you see as silence may be preparation. What you see as discomfort may be divine redirection. And what you see as being lost may actually be the beginning of being found. Hold firmly onto your prayers even when your voice feels weak. Keep turning back to Allah even when you feel undeserving. Trust His timing, trust His wisdom, and trust that He knows your heart better than you know yourself. The path may not be clear right now, but the one guiding you is. And remember this, Allah never abandons a heart that keeps returning to Him. If you are still searching, still questioning, still calling upon Him, then you are already under His guidance. May Allah grant us patience in our confusion, strength in our waiting, clarity in our hearts, and unwavering trust in His plan. Ameen. Thank you everyone.